In the heart of the dense African rainforest, the village of Makoko stride beneath the shelter of ancient trees. The villagers live simple and contented lives, tending to their crops and celebrating their vibrant culture through music, dance, and storytelling. But beneath this cheerful surface lay a story buried in time, waiting to be told. On this fateful evening, the royal gong echoed through the village, striking 7 solemn notes that announced the king's death, plunging the community into mourning. Yet, the arrival of a strange figure at the village square disrupted the customary gathering. The man's appearance was striking. An enormous hunchback bubbled as he walked, and he was draped in a black cloak adorned with blood-stained feathers and bones that clicked ominously with each movement. The witch doctor, known only as Agbaji, had returned after years of exile. His eyes deep and foreboding held the weight of a dark past, and his presence sent chills through those who remembered him. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wildfire as the villagers stared in disbelief. Could it be Agbaji had returned after all these years? One elder murmured to another. How could he have survived the evil forest? Another elder questioned in awe. Agbaji had once been the village healer, respected for his wisdom and feared for his power, but a tragic event had led to his banishment. Years ago, Chief Okoro, one of the village's most respected leaders, lost his wife Nkoyo under Agbaji's care. Nkoyo had gravely fallen ill, and despite Agbaji's best efforts, she passed away. The village turned against him, accusing him of foul play. Nkoyo had once been betrothed to Agbaji, but had left him to marry Chief Okoro, a decision that did not sit well with Agbaji, who in a fit of rage had threatened to deal with her. Some whispered that it was not a coincidence that Nkoyo fell ill and died the very day she was taken to Agbaji's shrine for treatment. In his grief, Chief Okoro accused Agbaji of deliberately letting his magic fail. The villagers, consumed by sorrow and anger, exiled Agbaji to the depths of the evil forest, a place from which no one was expected to return, leaving him at the mercy of malevolent spirits and wild beasts. But Agbaji had survived, and now his return stirred old fears and uncertainties. As Agbaji walked through the village, he noted the changes time had brought. The children he once healed were now adults, eyeing him with a mix of curiosity and fear, and the villagers avoided his gaze, the memories of his exile still fresh in their minds. Days passed after the king was laid to rest, and the villagers began to prepare Prince Obiora, the heir apparent, to assume the throne as tradition demanded. Meanwhile, Agbaji quietly settled into his long-abandoned shrine on the outskirts of the village. He rarely ventured into the heart of Makoko, yet his presence loomed like a shadow over the community, a constant reminder of a past they could not forget. Although uneasy, the villagers resumed their daily routines, hoping that the witch doctor's return wouldn't disturb their fragile peace. But soon, strange occurrences began to plague the village. Crops mysteriously withered overnight, livestock fell ill without explanation, and children woke up from night terrors, claiming to have seen dark shadows lurking in the corners of their room. The village's unease grew, and suspicion turned once again towards Agbaji. Whispers spread, blaming his return for the string of misfortunes that had befallen them, from the king's sudden death to the latest strange events. Yet, despite their fears, the villagers clung to a flicker of hope. They believed the coronation of the new king would mark the end of their trouble. As it had always brought a new era of peace and prosperity in the past, they eagerly anticipated the ceremony, convinced that it would restore balance and harmony to their lives. The day of the coronation finally arrived, drawing the villagers to the palace for the grand celebration. Joy filled the air as they danced to the vibrant rhythm of traditional music, their spirits lifted by the promises of a brighter future under Prince Obiora's reign. Little did they know, their suffering was about to take a far disastrous turn. As the crown was placed on Prince Obiora's head, a shocking event unfolded. He began to convulse violently and collapsed onto the floor, leaving the villagers in stunned silence. In the entire history of Makoko, no heir had ever collapsed on his coronation day. Fear and confusion gripped everyone present as the strange incident plunged the crowd into chaos. But the night's terrors were not over. Suddenly, Prince Kamsi, the younger prince, fell into a trance. His eyes glazed over as if possessed by an unknown force, and he began to speak in a voice that was not his own, but with a chilling, unworthy tone. He prophesied of an ancient legend, one that foretold the return of a powerful healer, a figure who would either bring salvation or destruction to the village. The healer returns, but his heart bears the burden of betrayal. Prince Kamsi's voice echoed through the air, his words heavy with a prophecy that gripped the villagers in rapt silence. I shifted towards Agbaji, who stood at the edge of the crowd, his expression unreadable as the villagers hung to every word. The hand of Okoko will unveil the truths hidden in darkness. Only then will peace return to the village. Prince Kamsi finished before collapsing as if the weight of the prophecy had drained him completely. Confusion and fear spread like wildfire, and in their desperation, the villagers turned toward Agbaji, the very man they had once despised, now pleading for his help, begging him to save them. Chief Okoro, however, seemed more troubled by the part of the prophecy that mentioned Agbaji than the chaos engulfing the village. The thought of his old nemesis Agbaji wielding such power and being hailed as the village's savior fueled a deep simmering rage within him. "You return at a time of great peril, Agbaji," Chief Okoro declared, his voice laced with both desperation and bitterness. "Prove your intentions. Show us you can be trusted by helping us find the hand of Okoko and end this curse." His words begging for help, but his eyes betrayed something more sinister. "Prove my intentions, you say? I have nothing to prove to those who cast me into darkness." Agbaji replied coldly, his gaze locking onto Chief Okoro. "It is you, Okoro, who should fear the light of the truth." Agbaji stood tall, his presence commanding, as he looked out at the villagers who had once humiliated and shunned him. The tables had turned, and now they cowered before him, pleading for the very help they once rejected. Faces that had been twisted in hatred now showed only desperation and fear, yet Agbaji remained unmoved by their plea. Without another word, he turned his back on the coronation ground, his hunched figure disappearing into the shadow, his heart still weighed down by the wounds of the past. As he walked away, Agbaji's thoughts simmered with anger. "They crawl back to me now like worms in the dirt. They beg for the same hands they once caused to save them. Let them rot in the conflict they created," he thought bitterly, distancing himself from the desperate villagers. The silence that followed Agbaji's departure was profound, broken only by the faint rustle of his cloak as he vanished, leaving the villagers to ponder the true cost of their salvation. As the princes were carefully laid to rest in their chambers, the villagers retreated to their various homes, leaving the mothers and palace maids to keep vigil over the young royals, while a heavy sense of uncertainty loomed over Makoko. Meanwhile, Chief Okoro walked down a quiet path towards his compound, his face masked with deep worry. His brow frowned and his eyes were clouded with concern, as if a dark storm was brewing within him. Sweat trickled down his face and his heart pounded in his chest, his rhythm eerily matching the rustling of the trees around him. He returned home that evening, lost in thought. Even the food that was served him seemed tasteless, a reflection of his troubled mind. Fear and anxiety gripped him, making him restless and on edge. The prophecy he had heard at the village square haunted him, threatening to expose his darkest secrets. Unwilling to sit idly by as his world crumbled, Chief Okoro resolved to take action. He began to craft a plan to turn the villagers against Agbaji once more, this time determined to ensure that there would be no loose ends. That night, unable to sleep, Chief Okoro's mind raced with schemes as he brooded over the prince's prophecy. Driven by a desperate need for self-preservation, he quietly slipped out of his house with a sharp machete in hand and made his way to Okuku's shrine, determined to find the hand of Okuku before Agbaji does. Chief Okoro entered the abandoned shrine, feeling a cold shiver creep down his spine. The air was heavy with an unsettling stillness, and the wind whispered through the tangled bushes, making them seem alive. For a decade, no one had dared to set foot in this place, and it was clear why. At the entrance, two ominous statues stood watch, their bearded faces stern and forbidding. The once decorative palm leaves now marked the line between the village and the unknown dangers within. As Chief Okoro took in the scene, his mouth fell open in shock. Suddenly, he heard a faint rustling sound and quickly ducked into the bushes, gripping his machete tightly. His heart pounded as a shadowy figure appeared in the distance, slowly making his way toward the shrine. As he drew nearer, Chief Okoro recognized the feature. It was Agbaji, the last person he wanted to see, but there they were, brought face to face by fate once more. Chief Okoro rushed from his hiding place as Agbaji approached the shrine, Agbaji's eyes burning with a mix of anger and pain, memories of his banishment flooding back. He had pleaded with the gods to prove him innocent, but they stayed silent, allowing the villagers to cast him out. Now Agbaji stared at the shrine with contempt. The once holy site was in ruins and abandoned, just like he was. How the tables have turned! I was forgotten, and now the gods are forgotten too, Agbaji said. His pain and anger were clear as he took in the shrine's sorry state. Chief Okoro quietly watched, feeling the intensity of Agbaji's emotions. With determination, Agbaji stepped into the shrine, his heart filled with anger and a deep need for revenge. He was seeking the hand of Okuku, just as the prince has foretold. But as Agbaji entered the shrine, something unexpected happened. The hand of Okuku rose into the air and began to spin rapidly, drawing Agbaji into a deep trance. His eyes were locked on the spinning hand, unable to look away. Chief Okoro, who had cautiously followed him, kept his distance, too afraid to get closer, fearing for his own safety. In his trance, Agbaji saw visions of the past. He relived the events that led to the death of his beloved Nkoyo and his own banishment. The memories overwhelmed him, foiling his growing anger. 12 years ago, when Agbaji and Nkoyo's love was still growing, Chief Okoro's deceitful lies tore them apart. He whispered to Nkoyo that Agbaji's healing power came with a terrible price. He would never have children of his own, and his wife would die at childbirth. Chief Okoro poisoned her mind, accusing Agbaji of hiding this cruel fate, calling him wicked and manipulative. Overwhelmed by her anger and fear, Nkoyo stormed into Agbaji's home, accusing him of plotting her death. Their argument was intense, and their love crumbled. Nkoyo ended their engagement, leaving Agbaji heartbroken and vowing to make her pay for what he saw as her betrayal. Just a week after their bitter breakup, Chief Okoro married Nkoyo in a union that seemed peaceful and loving, yet it sparked quiet whispers among the villagers, who wondered at the sudden turn of events. 2 years into their marriage, Nkoyo's life took a tragic turn. She returned home from the market one day, feeling unwell. As she approached the latrine behind the house, she heard a woman's soft laughter coming from her bedroom. Unsettled, she peeked through the window. What Nkoyo saw shattered her world. Queen Ogechi, the Igwe's second wife and mother of Prince Obiora, lay entwined with Chief Okoro on their bed. Nkoyo's heart broke as she watched in disbelief. But the shock deepened when she heard Chief Okoro refer to Prince Obiora as his son. Nkoyo's gasp of surprise gave her away, and Queen Ogechi quickly dressed while Chief Okoro rushed towards his wife to confront her. In the days that followed, the atmosphere in Chief Okoro and Nkoyo's home grew tense, filled with arguments and unease. Unbeknownst to Nkoyo, her discovery would lead to deadly consequences. Fearing she would reveal his dark secret, Chief Okoro poisoned her just days later. Nkoyo's life was brutally cut short, and Agbaji was wrongfully blamed and banished. Now, as Agbaji stood in the shrine, The hand of Okuku revealed the truth, exposing Chief Okoro's deceit and treachery. Chief Okoro watched, his heart pounding with fear, as he wondered if his downfall was near. The hand of Okuku seemed to be unveiling secrets to Agbaji, and Chief Okoro could do nothing but watch, filled with dread. Suddenly, the hand of Okuku stopped spinning and fell into Agbaji's outstretched arms, snapping him out of his trance. In that moment, Agbaji understood everything that had happened, and the anger he had carried for the villagers and Okuku began to fade. The loud noises from the shrine had stirred the villagers from their sleep, filling the night with confusion and fear. As they wondered what could be happening, they gathered in small anxious groups, watching the flashes of lightning and hearing the distant rumble of thunder from the shrine. Slowly they began to make their way toward the source of the disturbance. Inside the shrine, Chief Okoro saw his chance. With a sudden burst of desperation, he leaped from his hiding place and attacked Agbaji. "You will not have it, Agbaji. The power should be mine, not yours," Chief Okoro shouted, his voice laced with panic. Agbaji, unwavering, met his challenge. "You have already taken more than you deserve, Okoro. The gods had witnessed your treachery, and now the truth will judge you." The two clashed with fierce intensity, their strength and weapons locked in a deadly struggle. The villagers, now gathered outside the shrine, watched in fear as Agbaji's true power was unleashed, the tension thick in the air. With a final surge of strength, Agbaji overpowered Chief Okoro, pinning him to the ground and sending the hand of Okuku flying into the air. But as Agbaji turned to retrieve it, Chief Okoro sprung to his feet, machete in his hand, and charged at him with a wild cry, causing the villagers to scream in terror. But just as Chief Okoro was about to strike, a bolt of thunder struck him down, sending him crashing to the ground. The hand of Okuku vanished into thin air, leaving Agbaji standing victorious, yet shaken by the intensity of the battle. In a shocking turn of events, Chief Okoro began to confess his darkest secrets, leaving the villagers in stunned silence. "It was me. I poisoned Nkoyo. I was the one who spread the lies that led to your exile, Agbaji. I did it all to protect my secret, to hold on to my power. Please forgive me, Agbaji. Please forgive me, everyone. Please forgive me, my people," he pleaded, his voice filled with desperation. The villagers listened with a mix of shock, horror and disbelief as he revealed the full extent of his atrocities and deceit, exposing a tangled web of lies and betrayal that had plagued the community for far too long. The air grew heavy with tension as they struggled to grasp the enormity of his wrongdoings, their minds reeling from the revelations. Realizing the truth of Chief Okoro's betrayal, the villagers slowly approached Agbaji, their expression a blend of awe, fear, and respect. Agbaji, though exhausted, stood tall, his eyes reflecting a sense of justice finally served. As the dramatic scene unfolded at the shrine, the two princes, unaware of the chaos, woke in their mother's care. But the truth of Chief Okoro's sinister schemes had finally come to light, leaving the villagers outraged. His plan to install his maid child as the king of Makoko was exposed, and the once revered chief was now shunned and cast out by the very people he had sought to control. Ogechi, caught in Chief Okoro's web of lies, faced her own downfall as their affair was exposed, bringing shame and disgrace upon her. Days later, the younger prince Kamsi was crowned king of Makoko by the chiefs. His first decree was to banish Queen Ogechi and Chief Okoro from the kingdom, freeing the people from their control. "Let it be known that Chief Okoro and Queen Ogechi are banished from Makoko, never to return again," King Kamsi declared. In a gesture of unity, he appointed his brother Prince Obiora as his special advisor, naming him the Onowu of Makoko. The days of deceit are over. Today we begin anew with the truth as our guide, King Kamsi announced, bringing cheers of relief and hope from the villagers. The king and the people of Makoko apologized to Agbaji, thanking him for his bravery and kindness. They rewarded him with a new wife to love, several pieces of land to cultivate, and the honor of becoming the village's chief priest. Once misunderstood and mistreated, Agbaji became respected and cherished by all. Years passed, and under King Kamsi's leadership, the village of Makoko flourished. The crops thrived, and the livestock prospered, and Kamsi grew old, becoming a father to many sons and daughters. Agbaji lived a long and fulfilling life. When he passed away peacefully in his sleep, his spirit joined the ancestors who watched over Makoko. The villagers mourned his loss, but celebrated the life of the man who had saved them. The tale of Agbaji's return and Chief Okoro's wickedness became a cautionary legend in Makoko. The villagers learned the value of forgiveness and the dangers of unchecked power, and deep within the shrine, the hand of Okuku lay hidden once more, waiting for the day it might be found again, its secret buried beneath the ancient trees. The end.